Welcome back to the deep dive. So you gave us this whole stack of sources, and they're all focused on one thing, really,
Hmm.
proving that an extended stay or even a full move to Kuala Lumpur can be, well, truly affordable and not nearly as stressful as you'd think.
Right. And that's the paradox we're digging into.
Yeah.
KL has this reputation, especially for expats. It's seen as fast, modern, and therefore expensive.
Yeah, that's the assumption.
But our sources are all saying the same thing.
Mhm.
That's wrong. As long as you have the right local knowledge, if you just avoid a few key mistakes, the city really opens up.
So our mission today is to basically crack that budget code. We're pulling out the specific actionable things you can do to keep your costs low. We're talking accommodation, transport, food, the big three.
Exactly. And we're going deeper. The core idea is that KL is super affordable, but you have to be deliberate about it. It doesn't just happen by accident.
Right.
We're going to look at why, say, a high-end service department might actually save you money in the long run, and why that plate of street food isn't just tasty, it's a strategic move.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with transportation, because that's what the sources flag as the #1 budget killer for newcomers.
Oh, for sure. You land in this big, modern city,
Right.
and your first thought is just grab a taxi.
Or a ride hail. And that assumption can be disastrous.
You really can. The secret, the real key to saving money in KL is embracing the public transport network. You've got a fantastic system there.
The LRT, the MRT, the monorail.
Right. And just to break that down for anyone who's not familiar, think of the MRT as your main subway line.
With heavy rail.
Exactly. Then the LRT is the light rail. It's often elevated. And the monorail kind of weaves through the super dense parts of the city center.
And the most important parts.
They're all clean, they're air-conditioned, which is a lifesaver, and they are your absolute best defense against the traffic.
And the cost is, it's incredible. We're talking, what, maybe 1 to 15 ringgit for a ride?
Yeah, often less than $4 for even the longest trips. But to make it work, you have to get a touch-and-go card, immediately.
That's the universal pass for pretty much everything.
It is. But here's the real budget lifeline, the one that saves you even more. It's the JO KL City Bus.
Which is?
Completely free. It runs on these specific high-traffic routes through places like Bukit Bintang and Chinatown. It's a massive win for just getting around and exploring during the day.
Okay, but sometimes you do need a car. What's the advice there? Because the sources give a huge warning about this.
A huge one. Rule 1 is forget flagging down a random taxi on the street.
Especially from the airport or a mall.
Absolutely. That's how you get hit with these surprising, sometimes really inflated fares. The solution is just to rely on the ride-hailing apps.
Grab is the big one.
Grab is the standard, yeah. But our sources strongly recommend checking InDrive, too. A lot of the time, it's just a little bit cheaper, especially if it's not rush hour.
So the main takeaway is to always book through the app. No negotiating, no guesswork.
Always. Now, for the reality check that connects all of this back to where you decide to live, affordability in KL, it doesn't mean speed. The traffic is intense.
And when we say intense, we mean it. You could be in a car for an hour trying to go a pretty short distance.
An hour or more, easily. It's gridlock, especially during the morning and evening rush.
So you have to factor that time into your life.
You absolutely have to. You need to give yourself a massive buffer for anything important, like a flight.
Yeah.
Trying to get to the airport after 8 a.m., it's a gamble. And that stress, that wasted time, that's the real hidden cost of living in KL.
That's the perfect transition, actually. That reality about traffic leads right into your next big decision. Housing.
It really does.
For any kind of extended stay, it's the biggest line item, and it forces this trade-off, right? Convenience versus cost.
Absolutely. Where you live directly impacts how much time and money you spend stuck in that traffic.
Yeah.
So if you're prioritizing convenience, being close to business districts or transport hubs.
You're looking at central areas like
Right.
KLCC, Bukit Bintang.
Banks are, yeah. But that sounds like a guaranteed budget buster, doesn't it?
Yeah.
High convenience usually means high rent. And it's true. The rent per square foot is highest there. But here's the key insight from the sources. For professionals, for long-term residents, the savings in daily travel time, in stress, in ride-hailing costs, it often makes that central location the cheaper option overall.
That's a huge point, and it's something we see with, corporate teams and business travelers. They look for those extended stay solutions, the service departments right in the city core.
They do, and it's a smart play. You look at services that specialize in connecting professionals with that kind of accommodation. And they focus on convenience. They understand that if you're commuting for 2 hours every day, that time has a real financial cost.
So in a city like KL, convenience is actually a cost-saving strategy.
It is the ultimate cost saver.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting. If what you want is the most physical space for your money,
You have to look further out.
you do. You look at these established local neighborhoods like TTDI or Damansari Tama. There may be 20, 30 minutes outside the core without traffic.
And the rents there are significantly lower.
Way lower. For really nice places, too. You get a much more authentic, quieter feel. But the downside is pretty obvious.
You're now more reliant on buses or those ride-hailing apps to get into the city.
Right. So you, as the person planning the stay, you have to decide what you value more. Is it a bigger apartment for less money? Or is it an extra hour or two of your life back every single day?
So to sum that up then, Central is great for walkability, but it's the highest rent. Then you have expat areas, which have amenities but are still pricey.
And then the local neighborhoods offer the best rent and a more authentic vibe, but you have to commit to that travel time. And you always have to factor in your estimated daily transport costs when you're comparing rental prices. Don't just look at the sticker price of the apartment alone.
Okay, let's shift to the food scene, which is, it's a huge draw for KL. It's so diverse and delicious. How do we do that on a budget?
The rule here is simple. Forget the tourist traps. Focus on where the locals eat.
And that starts in a kind of surprising place.
It does. You have to understand that in KL, shopping mall food courts are a revelation. They're not these sad, sterile places you might find in other countries.
No, they're vibrant. They're hubs.
Exactly. They're incredibly competitive, and they offer this huge variety. You can get local Malay, Chinese, Indian, whatever you want, and all for really low prices.
And that competition keeps the quality high, too.
It really does. The sources mention places like Sushi King, for example. You can get a full, modern meal for 2 people. Sushi, sides, drinks for something like $15 US. That's just amazing value.
And beyond the malls.
You have to seek out the smaller, family-run Indian restaurants, the mamak stalls. They're often unassuming, but they have some of the most flavorful, authentic food you'll find.
And the rule of thumb applies. Look for the long line of locals.
That's your signal. If you see a queue spilling out the door, that's where you want to be. And of course, you have to talk about street food.
Jalen Ullerer.
The most famous one, yeah. It just comes alive at sunset. It's all neon lights and amazing smells. It's cheap, it's delicious, it's an essential KL experience.
And if you feel a bit overwhelmed by all the choices.
A street food tour is a great idea. Costs a little bit up front, but a good guide will take you to the hidden gems and give you the cultural context.
Okay, now, there is a critical financial point to make, a kind of tax trap.
Yes, this is where people get caught out. At most sit-down restaurants, even the casual ones, they add 2 charges to your final bill,
A 6% government tax.
and often a 10% service charge on top of that. So you're suddenly looking at a 16% jump from the menu price. It's not hidden, but it can definitely strain a tight budget if you're not expecting it.
So if you're really watching every penny, stick to the street food and hawker centers. A meal there might be, what, $1 to $3 US?
Exactly. And you generally avoid that 16% surcharge in those places.
All right, let's pivot to being financially prepared. How do you make sure the logistics of money don't become this source of constant stress? Specifically, getting your money into Malaysian ringgit.
Right. And the big mistake here is using your traditional bank back home for transfers.
Why is that?
Because they're notorious for high fees and, frankly, pretty bad exchange rates. They skim a little bit off the top every single time you move your money.
So what's the solution our sources recommend?
They all point to specialized services like Wise. They use the real mid-market exchange rate, and their fees are low and transparent. Over a long stay, if you're moving money regularly, this will save you a surprising amount.
And what about paying for things day to day?
You need a mixed strategy. KL is modern, but cash is still king in a lot of places.
For the small local restaurants, the street food stalls.
Local markets, yeah. A lot of those places either don't take cards or they'll add a surcharge. So you need a mix of cash Malaysian ringgit and a good travel card for bigger purchases.
And for cash, get it from local bank ATMs in the city, not the tourist ones at the airport. You'll get a better rate.
Definitely. And don't forget about all the amazing free things there are to do. KL has so much to offer that won't cost you anything.
The green spaces are incredible. KLCC Park, right under the Petronas Towers.
It has those free light and water shows every evening. It's fantastic. And then you have the Perdana Botanical Garden, which is this huge, peaceful escape from the city. Perfect for a picnic.
And for a dose of culture.
Take a free walking tour. They're led by local guides. You get insights you'd never find in a book. You just tip the guide at the end. It's so worth it.
And for souvenirs, the advice is to skip the expensive shops and head to a place like Central Market. You can find authentic stuff and actually negotiate the price.
Just one final financial tip. Have a buffer. Plan for an extra 10 to 20% on top of your monthly budget. It's a just-in-case fund. It covers a spontaneous trip or an emergency, and it just removes a ton of stress.
So before we wrap up, let's cover some of the non-financial pitfalls, the other little headaches that can trip you up.
A big one is just getting stuck in the tourist bubble. You have to step away from the most famous attractions. Venture into the other neighborhoods. That's where you find the better food and the more authentic experiences.
And what about the most critical administrative detail?
Your visa. This is not something to guess about. You have to research the requirements thoroughly on the official government websites before you even think about packing.
Cannot stress that enough. Getting it wrong is a costly, stressful nightmare.
It really is. And just a couple of final practical tips. Secure your valuables. Use the safe in your apartment or hotel. And for your own sanity, do not overschedule your time.
Right. It's a huge, hot city.
Trying to see everything is just exhausting. You'll enjoy it so much more if you build in downtime and just allow for some flexibility.
So, boiling it all down, the essential KL budget formula seems pretty clear. Ditch the taxis, use the public transport and apps. Stay central if your time is valuable. Eat local.
And always remember that 16% that's going to get added to your restaurant bill.
Right. And if we connect this all back to that idea of a successful long-term stay, the sources really seem to hammer home the cost of time.
They do. While the rent in the suburbs is cheaper, that daily hour-plus commute each way, the stress of that, it has a real cost. It basically cancels out the savings on the rent.
Which forces you to question that core assumption that rent is the only thing that matters in a budget.
Precisely. So if spending a bit more on a central, convenient place, like a service department that saves you from that daily gridlock, if that saves you significant time, stress, and transport money, maybe the biggest aha moment for KL is realizing that convenience is the ultimate cost saver. It makes you wonder what other daily expenses could be cut down just by prioritizing your location and valuing your time as much as you value the lowest possible rent. Something to think about as you plan your own deep dive.